After adding the Augmentation Evoker to my party, I did double the damage I normally do. I must just be really good at this game. Hello again, this is Preheat. Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So Augmentation Evoker has been out a couple days, and hopefully a lot of you have been able to try it out and play it and get a sense for how it feels in Mythic Plus and Raid. Today I want to talk about something that I see a lot of misconceptions about, which is Augmentation Evoker damage and how it is displayed on details and Warcraft logs. So I'm sure a lot of you who've been playing it have noticed that the damage on details just doesn't even show any of the buff damage that you get, which is around 70% of your damage that you're just missing. So Blizzard has stated in interviews that they want this to be the case. They want you to see your allies doing better because you're supporting them. And that means that the inverse is also true, that you don't get the damage. So on details, it's going to show up like you're doing less damage than the healer or tank. Now, you can feel either way about this decision, right? Me personally, I think this is a big mistake because this game has been around for 15 years. There's kind of like a gold standard for DPS, right? Like you look at details, you assume that that's what people are doing. If you see people not pulling their weight, usually that leads to friction in the group and it causes, arguments and stuff. And I know that this is going to be better as time progresses. It's going to probably get around it. Augmentation Evoker doesn't really have its damage showing on details. And over time, people will get kicked from groups less over this kind of thing. But in general, I just really would like to see augmentation damage like on the details meter showing under my name and having the option to maybe flip it and then have it just show my allies. That's fine, right? Like I'm okay with having that option if you want, but not being able to see it myself to like gauge my performance without using external tools like Warcraft logs, third-party websites. I don't think that that's the right move, but either way, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I want to talk about specifically Warcraft logs. So a lot of people have been saying, oh, well, it's fine because details, details doesn't have your damage, but Warcraft logs does, right? Your damage is on Warcraft logs. And I am here to tell you that Warcraft logs for Augmentation Evoker is extremely inaccurate, okay? Now, you might have noticed if you're just flipping through bosses on Warcraft logs, how it seems like Demo locks, Unholy DKs, and Fire Mages are just dominating everything, right? They're just so good if you look down all these meters, right? And that is maybe true in some ways, but not necessarily the whole picture, okay? So I want to show an example here. So we're going to look at the number 2 log for the first boss. Now, if you look at this right here, you probably think, wow, Unholy is overpowered, right? Why are they doing so much damage? But the fact of the matter is that the Augmentation Evokers on this log are actually being completely robbed of their damage. So if we look at the Unholy DK, you'll notice here that some of the abilities have this little Evoker color square at the end, right? So that is telling you how much damage the Augmentation Evoker added to that ability. But you'll notice some of these abilities don't have it, right? So anything that's a pet damage ability, or if it's like an accumulator, some damage trigger spells, anything that's from a guardian as well, those just don't count. So if you look at the damage that this Unholy DK is doing, over 50% of its damage isn't even being sent back to the Augmentation Evoker. And it's actually worse than that, because if you look at specifically during their burst, which is where the majority of their damage is happening, 82% of the damage that they're dealing isn't even giving you back the damage from Ebb and Might. So this is obviously super inaccurate, right? It isn't only Unholy Death Knights though. This is also true for Fire Mage to a certain extent because Ignite also doesn't give any damage back, right? Since it's an accumulator. Also, it's true to a certain extent for other classes. Obviously, Demo Lock is another example where almost all of their damage isn't counting because most of it's pets and guardians. But then once again, if we look at specifically during the burst window, which is when you want to buff them, you're pretty much only getting damage back for around maybe 10% at most of the damage that they're doing. 90% of it just isn't even counting for you, right? So this is kind of a problem because it means that whenever you look at Warcraft logs, it's really inaccurate to know how well you're doing, especially for Unholy DKs, Demo Locks, Fire Mages, any class that has a lot of these damage contributions that are not being properly allocated. And I want to stress that this is not a problem with Warcraft logs. Warcraft logs has actually been doing a great job with this. They don't have the data available to them because the hooks just don't contain this information. And I'm sure that this could change over time, right? Augmentation just came out, so there's definitely a lot of time before the 10.2 patch, whenever I'm sure the next raid tier begins. But it is definitely skewing player perception because I've heard it a lot of times where people say, oh, well, augmentation damage is fine in Warcraft logs, so who cares? So what this also means is that if you care about doing damage on Warcraft logs as an Augmentation Evoker and you're buffing a Demo Lock or an Unholy DK, you're basically not getting any damage back from that, so you're not going to parse. Also, if you're a Warlock or Unholy DK and you want to parse, then you need an Augmentation Evoker to buff you. And, you know, the more the merrier, right? You could just get 5 of them all buffing you and your damage will be rank 1s on everything, right? So I'm not really a huge fan of how this is working. I feel like this is something that needs to be fixed right away. But I wanted to raise awareness on this because I've seen just so much misinformation swirling around this. The biggest offenders are Unholy and Demolock by far. We're talking like 80% of their burst basically isn't getting properly attributed. And then below them, we have like Fire Mage, right, with Ignite. It's a bigger issue in AoE because Ignite isn't going to give you any of the damage back. Also, with Shadow Priest, you aren't getting it back with Psychic Link, which is mainly an AoE thing. So this right here is a rank 1 Mythic Plus log, and I just wanted to demonstrate this. So the Augmentation Evoker did 220k, which is pretty good, right? But then if we look at the Fire Mage, their Ignite, 17.8% of their damage is not being attributed over to the Augmentation Evoker. None of it's being taxed, essentially. For the Shadow Priest, Psychic Link is 18.3% of their damage, plus Sting from Beyond. Both of these are not counting. So in total, that's around 179 million damage. So that probably means somewhere between 30 and 50 million damage is just missing from the Augmentation Evoker's damage. So now that we know this information, there's not really much we can do about it. In the meantime, I'm going to go on a limb and assume that they're going to fix the stuff on Warcraft logs at least, right? That seems to me like the most obvious thing that they're going to hit first. Hopefully they can fix up those hooks that aren't accurate for the abilities they're currently showing the attributions, and also add the ones that aren't attributing any damage to Augmentation Evoker. But I really still think that Details needs something, and it's not necessarily Details' fault, right? Like they can't pull from the data because there is no data for them to pull from. Like Blizzard literally has that data outside of the game. It's only outside of the game that you can get this combat hook information. It's not available in game. So maybe this gets changed in the future, right? Maybe there's like some sort of overlay that pulls data directly from the memory in real time, or maybe it has some sort of like Warcraft logs version of it that just overlays on top of your screen. I'm not sure what the solution is. All I know is that this is something that I'm really hoping that people in the community find a workaround for. But really the issue is kind of, it's Blizzard's thing, right? It's not really an issue with anyone who's making these add-ons. It's a decision that Blizzard made. So anyways, let me know what you think about all this. Would you like to see your damage on Details, or are you happy that you're not able to see that and it only shows it on your allies? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you've been kicked from a group in Mythic Plus, let me know in the comments below. I know a lot of people have been saying that this has been happening to them. They've been posting screenshots in the Evoker Discord and it's been a good laugh. And make sure to educate anyone who you run into about this. If they talk about your damage being low in Details, make sure that they know that the damage is actually there. Other people in the group are getting buffed, and that's the whole point of augmentation, is that you're contributing to the group by supporting your allies. So anyways, thank you all for watching this video. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and hopefully I see you in the next one.